Nou, eigenlijk voor doorwerken wat je zei.
Fuck. Sorry it took me so long, man. I was doing shit. I'm about to wear that one. And that one, fuck it. Do you hit the gym? What up, Dan? What's up, David? Isabel? Nah, bro, I don't hit the gym. I want to. Like, I don't, though. I don't even have a gym membership. I just do push-ups, bro, like every day. Every day. Every fucking day. Like, I usually do between 1 and 300 in the morning before I go to work. After work, I might not do any, you know what I'm saying? But some days I'll come home and do like another 200, you know what I'm saying? Or at least another 100. So on most days, I'd say I do between 2 and 500 push-ups, you know what I'm saying? But that's it. That's literally all I do. Thanks, man. Oh, thanks, Dan. You know, that's 100% push-ups. I don't curl. I don't bench. I don't do fucking pull-ups. I don't do anything else. That is literally it. You know, I mean, it's not easy to do. Like, it's easy in the sense that it's just a push-up. Like, and the mechanics of a push-up is pretty fucking easy. You know, and you can really do it anywhere. So I get out, do like I said, I do sets of 25. You know what I'm saying? 25, 25, 25, 25, 100. 25, 25, 25, 25, 100. 25, you get the point. So that's how I do mine. You know what I'm saying? I mean, 200 push-ups in the morning. I wouldn't say a day. I'd say every day I probably do at least 300 a day. You know, but yeah, you know what I'm saying. Got to keep it going. You could be a wrestler and you could actually beat Brock Lesnar. I wish, bro. I ain't that. I am not that talented when it comes to these hands. I'm just keeping it honest. You know what I'm saying. Like, I'm from the streets. You know what I'm saying. But I wasn't really like a major player in the streets, if you will. Like, I wasn't breaking all kind of laws and robbing motherfuckers or gang banging or none of that shit. You know what I'm saying? But I did my dirt. You know what I mean? It was the 90s. Of course, you gonna do your thing. And I did my thing. I actually did more of my thing, probably like in my 20s. Like, the 90s was just me being a teenager, idiot, whatever, you know. But but when I hit my 20s, shit, I turned up. I say my whole 20s was lit. Wall push-ups, ain't nothing wrong with that. Who said, "Oh my God, hi"? Hold on, let me. Weirdo said that. I like that name. What up, Jimothy? That's interesting. Jimothy. Stupid. Say hello to Baffaboo. What up, Jimothy? You breaking hearts now. Is that right, Isabel? I don't know, dog. I don't know. You don't know how bad I want to play some music right now. I just can't do it. I ain't trying to get my ass fucking clapped by the fucking copyright police. You know what I'm saying? CFH doomed in this bitch. What's up, baby? Oh man, gotta go. It's cool, weirdo. Thanks for stopping by, man. Or ma'am. You know what I'm saying? Or y'all. I don't know what your pronouns are. If you were a wrestler, what would your name be? Shit. The infamous Sleep. You know what? You're like, where the fuck that come from? That was my rap name when I was a rapper. I wasn't nobody, you know what I'm saying? But like when I used to be a rapper, according to my peers, I was really good. So I went and got the infamous Sleep. Well, that's God. You know what I'm saying? Which is it's an acronym standing for greatest out of Dayton. You know what I'm saying? Not God. So, but whatever, people, you know. And then I got infamous right here and Sleep right here. You know what I'm saying? So that was my rap name back when I was in the army. So the infamous Sleep. So if I ever became a wrestler, that'd be it. You know. But yeah, man. So the point of this live broadcast is this shit right here. Consequences of Capitalism by your boy Noam Chomsky and Marv Waterstone. I don't want to not count Marv Waterstone, but Noam Chomsky is the reason I bought the book. You know what I mean? Now I've already been reading this book, as you can tell. I haven't read this much. We got this much. Hold up to go. Because this shit here is like the index and the appendix and that shit. So this is what we got left. This is what we already did. And this is where I'm at. I don't know if you can see it. It's a little mark right there. Like that's where I left off. So without further ado, I don't even know what we're talking about at this point, but let's just see. To take an unconventional case, 80 years ago, Hitler invaded Poland. The rationale was defense against the wild terror of the Poles, instantly assigned to the category of pretexts outside Nazi Germany and its sympathizers. The reasons were to acquire Lebensraum for the superior Aryan race and to eliminate the tens of millions of Untermenschen who occupied the territories and who were appropriating the resources that properly belonged to their superiors. If analogies come to mind in American history and elsewhere today, it's not mere accident. Let's turn to another case that is uncontroversial within mainstream opinion in the United States, the US wars in Indochina. Now, the rationale sampled earlier is expounded by the most respected voices of the establishment. On the left, blundering efforts to do good. Defense against aggression by communist North Vietnam, defense against internal aggression, and similar pronouncements by numerous others. The wild men in the wings dismissed these as mere pretext, joined by a large majority of the public who regarded the war as fundamentally wrong and immoral, not a mistake, as we have seen irreverently with no voice in the mainstream. Actually, now that I'm trying to think. Oh, you're talking about the Indochina wars. Okay. To discover the reasons, we can investigate the rich internal record from the early days when the basic decisions were made in the late 40s and early 50s. To some of the wild men, the record reveals the unusual imperial concern that the virus of an independent Vietnam would spread contagion throughout Southeast Asia, reaching as far as Japan and seriously undermining U.S. post-war plans for global control. We'll come back to this later. To take another case, consider the major crime of the 20th century, the US-UK invasion of Iraq, a textbook case of aggression, the supreme international crime, according to the Nuremberg Tribunal that hanged Nazi war criminals for less, dismissing Nazi pretexts. In US mainstream opinion, the war was at worst a strategic blunder, according to Obama, or the Obama administration. The rationale at first was Saddam's nuclear weapons programs. That was the single question. When it was answered the wrong way, the rationale instantly and effortlessly shifted to democracy promotion. US media and other commentary quickly adopted a new rationale, though some more sober minds warned that the noble and generous vision may be beyond our reach. It may be too costly. The beneficiaries may be too backward to benefit from our solicitude. Scholarship joined in as well. One of the rare exceptions, Middle East scholar Augustus Richard Norton, observed caustically that as fantasies about Iraq's weapons of mass destruction were unmasked, the Bush administration increasingly stressed the democratic transformation of Iraq, and scholars jumped on the democratization bandwagon. Some regarded these rationales as pretext, among them Iraqis, who demonstrated their backwardness in a Gallup poll taken just at the time that the new rationale was eloquently proclaimed in a major address by President Bush. Some Iraqis, it is true, did regard the rationale as valid, and that was about 1%. Another 4% thought that the goal was to assist the Iraqi people. Most of the rest assumed that the goal was to take control of Iraq's resources and reorganize the Middle East in the interest of the US and Israel. The conspiracy theory derided by rational Westerners who understood that Washington and London would have been just as dedicated to the liberation of Iraq if it produced asparagus rather than oil at the center of world petroleum production were in the South Pacific. So they're basically saying that there's no fucking way that we would have invaded Iraq if it would have just been on the grounds of like, oh, well, they got some fucking, I don't know, some crops over there that we want. Man, we don't give a fuck about that. We invaded because y'all got oil, motherfucker. That's what the fuck we want. So that's basically what he's saying. And he's saying that the rationale given for our invasion of Iraq was immediately accepted by the mainstream media. Didn't even question it. They're just like, oh, okay, that's what you say it is. I guess that's what it is, right? What kind of fucking media is that? Like, what'd you say? Eats a bowl of marijuana, smokes a bowl of cereal. You're right. Asparagus slaps, though. Hey, straight up, though. Like, word up. I got a cup of asparagus in the fridge. I don't know why it's in the fridge, but I got a cup of asparagus in the fridge. I'll be fucking some asparagus up, cuz. Like, straight up. But anyway. As for the reasons, I'll leave it to you. The rationale pretext reasons distinctions have a critical role throughout history and today. Deregulation, as mentioned above, is an instructive case, and more generally, limited government, allegedly a conservative ideal, although oddly, government tends to grow under their stewardship, as in the Reagan years, serving primarily the rich. An early exponent of the ideal of limited government was Andrew Jackson. The rationale was negative rights. Citizens of our free society should be free from government intrusion. In his words, the federal government should not be permitted to restrict human liberty, but should be allowed to enforce human rights. The meaning of these fine words and their predictable consequences are spelled out by historian Greg Grandin in his End of the Myth by Human Rights Jackson. So by human rights, Jackson meant the right to slaughter Indians without government interference and to own property. Crucially, for this vicious slave owner to own human beings as property. The age of Jackson, Grandin observes, entailed a radical empowerment of white men and an equally radical subjugation of African Americans, along with brutal massacres and expulsion of the Untermenschen who were improperly appropriating to themselves what belonged by right to the superior Anglo-Saxon race. So what he's saying is that the rights and liberties afforded to citizens of this country were not extended to African Americans. Is basically what he's saying. It's like it was not extended. The rights of this country were not extended to Black people or the Native Americans. That's what he's saying in this book by, according to Andrew Jackson. Now, there are innumerable other examples of the utility of these distinctions in analysis of policy, but let's now turn to one prominent one. A core feature of received common sense is that the United States is committed to promoting democracy and human rights. It's sometimes called Wilsonian idealism or American exceptionalism. I mentioned in some opening remarks that it's a good rule of thumb to attend to doctrines about complex matters that are reiterated passionately, constantly, but without any evidence. Under such conditions, it's useful to take a look and to see if we're facing one of those cases where there are things that it wouldn't do to say, in Orwell's phrase. American exceptionalism is one of these cases. In the first place, as soon as we look, we find that the doctrine has nothing in particular to do with the United States. It seems to be universal. All imperial powers have had the same doctrine of exceptionalism. France, for example, has carrying out its civilizing mission in Algeria while the commanding general was giving orders to exterminate the population. That will civilize them properly. France's noble mission extended to much of West Africa, with such successes that people are dying in the Mediterranean trying to flee the wreckage. Britain was very much the same. If there were time, I'd review some pretty remarkable examples, including even the most distinguished people like John Stuart Mill. The same is true even of the states that are the most brutal. Take Nazi Germany. When Hitler took over the Sudetenland, I guess that's how you say it, large parts of Czechoslovakia, he was just brimming with concern for the suffering people of the region. That's the rationale that was given. When Hitler overtook the Sudetenland, large parts of Czechoslovakia, when Hitler took over large parts of Czechoslovakia, basically, he was saying that the reason for it is just he was concerned for the people of that region. That's all. The Germans were going to undertake a humanitarian intervention to resolve ethnic conflicts, to bring the backward population under the wing of the advanced civilization of Germany. And we know where that led, basically, to the extermination of 6 million Jews. So, moving to Asia. When the Japanese were rampaging in Manchuria and North China with horrendous atrocities, what they were thinking is accessible to an unusual extent. Since they were defeated in the war, their internal records were taken, including counterinsurgency manuals. I'm not sure whether they were released to the public, but in the 1960s, a friend at the Rand Corporation sent them to me. Tony Russo, who worked with Dan Ellsberg in releasing the Pentagon Papers. I published some excerpts from them in a memorial volume for the great American pacifist A.J. Musk, reprinted in American Power with the New Mandarins. They're very interesting. They're very much like U.S. counterinsurgency doctrine, except that the rhetoric is more elevated. While they were devastating Manchuria and North China, carrying out the Nanjing massacre and other hideous crimes, that is what they were saying, talking to each other, no pretense. What we're going to create, they said, we're going to create an earthly paradise for the people of China, for whom we are expending our lives and treasure to protect from Chinese bandits, namely those resisting the Japanese humanitarian intervention. We'll protect the people of China and bring them under the wing of the advanced civilization of Japan, very elevated. In fact, if we had records from Attila the Hun, I suspect we'd probably find the same thing. It's hard to find an exception in the entire history of imperialism. That aspect of American exceptionalism is not at all exceptional. It's the norm. Everyone's the same who has any power. So basically, to sum all of what I just read up, what they're saying is just about any time a nation state wants to engage in some sort of terrorism in some other country, they will always give a reason that is more humanitarian in order to sell it to the public of their country. So if we want to go murder motherfuckers ruthlessly and senselessly in Iraq just because we want their oil or whatever the fuck, well, we can't just say that because we know America will be like, man, what the fuck y'all doing, man? Leave them motherfuckers alone. So instead, we'll say, well, we have to weapons of mass destruction. Yeah, that's it. They got weapons of mass destruction, and we need to go get it. And then when that failed, because everybody knew that was a full of shit fucking lie, now it's like, they're harboring terrorists. Yeah, we got to go to Iraq to root out terrorism, or whatever, or to spread democracy or whatever. Something that sounds good or plausible, to get you and me on board. So we'll be like, yeah, go fight that war. When in reality, they're just going over there to do more atrocities, to do more terrorism, while at the same time got the nerve to talk about other countries when they engage in the same shit. Because that's basically what he just said. All the world's imperial powers do basically the same thing. They'll tell their people in their country, we're just going over to help. We're just going over to root out some sort of inherent enemy or whatever. Only to go over there and commit war crimes. Because that's just what the fuck every powerful nation does, apparently. We just commit war crimes and under the guise of spreading democracy or saving them people from themselves or whatever the fuck, So that was basically the whole gist of everything I just read. and how usually the mainstream media of that country will just accept that narrative, whatever it is the government's lying to the people about, saying, oh, we're spreading democracy, we're trying to root out terrorism or communism, whatever the fuck they tell us. The media just accepts it. They're just like, yeah, I mean, hey, sure, that sounds right. So we're just going to report it as fact without asking any fucking questions, without, offering any pushback, not doing our own investigative research or journalism as it's called here. We're not going to do any of that. We're going to talk to that motherfucker who works for whatever department. He's going to tell us something. We're going to nod along and then just pass that shit along like it's fact. Like, that's how powerful nations work. We got a lot of nerds talking about China and their fucking surveillance state. We just fucking jealous. Our government wish they could do that. They wish they could just have the hundreds of millions of fucking cameras recording your every fucking move on some sort of fucking... We can't do it because we way too motherfucking racist. First of all, way too white supremacist over here. So we would already, if we even had that power, look at how we already treating black people, gay people, or Jews, or immigrants, or whatever the fuck. Like, look how we already treat them without that surveillance. Can you imagine? If we were to have that kind of surveillance that China got, man, you'll see black people drop off the face of this fucking... Bruh, they'll goddamn exterminate all of us. You know what I'm saying? Just anybody, especially motherfuckers like me, motherfuckers critical of the government, motherfuckers advocating for socialism and communism. You motherfucking right. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm advocating for socialism and communism. Fuck capitalism. So yeah, they would have me wipe the fuck out, because I'm not going to continue to advocate for a system that only benefits a small handful of oligarchy, a small plutocracy, you know what I'm saying? Where the majority of us get shit on left and right. We know it. We talk about it all the time. Higher prices and low wages and can't make ends meet. We always talk about this shit. We know what's going on. But yet, as soon as someone starts to challenge the system that has made this a reality for you, you're all like, oh, no, son, no. Can't have socialism. But that's only because you don't know what the fuck socialism is. I know you don't know. You don't know the definition. You don't know if it's ever worked, where it has worked. You can try to point to this country or that country, but I can guarantee you, just because they said they were socialist doesn't mean they were, because you have to go off the definition. What is socialism? And if that's not what you're doing, then you're not a socialist. I don't care what you call yourself. So, you see what I'm doing, right? You see what I'm doing? This is what I suggest you do. Read. You know what I'm saying? And as you can tell, this ain't no Harry Potter. This ain't no fucking fiction. This is some real history, world history, U.S. history, imperialism, capitalism, motherfucker. Like, that's the shit I'm talking about when I say read. Like, don't just go fucking read J.K. Rowling bullshit. Man, get your head out the fucking clouds. That's part of the problem now. We're too pacified with entertainment. You need to be learning, because you ain't learning shit in school. You got indoctrinated to accept whatever it was, whatever agenda the state wanted to put on you, make you think fucking that the civil rights movement, if they ever even talked about it, was only about, 5 motherfuckers, you know what I'm saying, that you ever heard of, if 5, Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Sojourner Truth. You probably heard about these motherfuckers. You ain't heard about nobody else, you know what I'm saying? And then you make it seem like the whole civil rights movement was on the back of one man when it wasn't, But they won't tell you that. They won't tell you shit. They won't tell you shit. They'll tell you what they want you to know, and then that's it. And then they'll test you and quiz you on that shit, even though all that shit you just learned is a lie. With just a sprinkling, a kernel of truth in that bitch. They didn't even tell you, did you know that the United States used to, before Hitler started killing off Jews or whatever, he was supported by the United States. Like, I'm just telling you, like, if there's an evil person in the world history, post the foundation of the United States, we probably had something to do with it. Just because we're evil. This country is an evil, wicked, sadistic, barbaric country, period. I'm not saying everyone in it is, clearly, I'm just saying those who make all the decisions here and abroad, are fucking corrupt to the core. Like, they don't give a shit about anyone or anything that isn't profits. So, and if you want to defend a system that incentivizes that sort of thinking, then you a fool. Like, because you one of the main people that's getting fucked over by the system. But you want to support it because The same people who are making your life terrible are telling you capitalism is the only answer. And socialism and communism is not the answer. That is the boogeyman. You think you don't have rights now? Just wait. It's like, them the same motherfuckers is keeping you oppressed. So of course they'll say that. Of course they'll say that. Since when does anyone who's benefited beautifully off of a particular system ever advocated for its destruction? Of course capitalists and the powers that be aren't going to advocate for the end of capitalism. They've made too much money off of it. Even though you will never, you watching this, you will never see that kind of money. And therefore you'll never experience that kind of freedom that kind of money brings. You know what I'm saying? But hey, continue to advocate for capitalism, I guess. Whatever. You're an idiot if you do, but whatever. Just know if you do advocate for capitalism, that's exactly with the slave owners in this country, and by slave owners I mean the corporate CEOs. That's exactly what they want you to do. That's exactly how they want you to think, so they can continue to pay you less than what you're worth and offer you nothing, and continue to make your life just at the edge of precarity. If you ain't already poor, they want to keep you just one accident away from poverty. They just want you just at the cusp of poverty. You know what I'm saying? So that the power's in their hands. Because as soon as they got all the power, which currently they do, you are nothing to them. Like, I don't care how much college you have. They'll find another motherfucker. You're replaceable. In fact, they don't even want you to have a college degree, because God forbid you learn something. You know what I mean? Because the more uneducated you are, the easier you are to replace. So why, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I am all about profits, I want to pay you as little as possible to do the work I need you to do. That's because profits is all that means anything to me. So if I got two candidates, you know what I'm saying? One of them has a bachelor's degree, who has experience in the field that my job, you know what I'm saying? That is my job. So I'm going to technically, like, I would have to pay him more. Like, he has more experience. He's more qualified for the job. Whereas this guy didn't even go to college. Like, he's just straight off out the streets, you know what I'm saying? It's his first job. I mean, he feels he can do it though. You know what I mean? Me as a capitalist, I would be more inclined to hire that guy, because I don't have to pay him as much. You know what I'm saying? I can get rid of him. Fuck him. You know what I'm saying? Period. Like, why would I spend the money on this guy when I could spend less and get that guy? Now, his output may not be as great. He may not have the same position, you know, but hey, what do I care? You know, as long as you kind of do it, I don't have to do it at all. So anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, moving to Asia with the Japanese. Oh, we already did that. That's very interesting. Oh, we already did that. Okay, here we go. In fact, oh wait, we already did that. Fuck, where are we at? Oh, here it is. The second thing it wouldn't do to say about American exceptionalism is what the facts are, some of which we've been discussing. It's particularly instructive to see how the historical record is dealt with by really serious scholars, the best scholars, people who are not experts in legitimation. Take Hans Morgenthau. Hans Morgenthau is one of the founders of realist international relations, or IR theory. The dominant tendency in IR theory, which dismisses sentimental talk about Wilsonian idealism, Morgenthau was much too good a scholar to have any of that. He was a hard-headed realist. In his 1964 book, The Purpose of American Politics, he writes that America is unlike other countries because it has a transcendent purpose. Other countries just have national interests. The U.S. has a transcendent purpose, the establishment of equality and freedom in America, and indeed throughout the world. Motherfucker, we don't even have equality and freedom here. Like, what the fuck you talking about in the rest of the world? We don't have equality and freedom in the United States? Where at? You know, anyway. That's how you know the U.S. is full of shit. Like, we don't even do it here, bruh. Like, when we talking about spreading that shit elsewhere, what exactly are we spreading elsewhere? Anyway. Where was I at? Hold on. Listen to this. This is very interesting. Morgenthau recognized that the historical record is really inconsistent with America's transcendent purpose. So what he's saying is what America's goals are, what we're trying to accomplish in the world, what we're actually doing is different from that. So I just wanted to clear that little part up. One of the highlights, wait, hold on. And honest, and competent scholar recognize that the historical record is radically inconsistent with America's transcendent purpose, but that should not mislead us. We should not confound the abuse of reality with reality itself. Reality itself is the unachieved national purpose revealed by the evidence of history as our minds reflect it. The actual history record is merely the abuse of reality, hence of only secondary interest. Those who confuse reality with the abuse of reality are committing the error of atheism, which denies the validity of religion on similar grounds. Again, a thought worth pondering. One of the highly admired elements of American exceptionalism is our long-standing commitment to democracy promotion. Now, here too, there's good scholarship. The major scholarly study of democracy promotion is by another serious scholar, Thomas Carothers, then director of the Democracy and Rule of Law Project at the Carnegie Endowment. Carothers was in an unusually favorable position to study this leading rationale for U.S. foreign policy, re-invoked by Bush in Iraq when the search for weapons of mass destruction went sour. Carothers, who describes himself as a neo-Reaganite, had served in the Reagan State Department in the democracy promotion programs in Latin America, so he had an insider's view of what was going on. Reviewing the record, Carothers concludes that the democracy programs were sincere, but a failure, in fact, a systematic failure everywhere. When U.S. influence was least in the southern cone of Latin America, progress toward democracy was greatest, despite Reagan's efforts to impede it by trying to embrace the fading right-wing dictators that Carter had shunned on human rights grounds. Where U.S. influence was strongest in the regions nearby, progress was least. So again, because I kind of fumbled that a little bit, but basically what he was just saying there is, wherever the United States had the most influence in trying to spread its democracy, it was actually doing all right before we intervened. And that where we did intervene, there was way more protest. There was a reason Washington sought to maintain the basic order of what, historically at least, are quite undemocratic societies, and to avoid populist-based change in Latin America. See, earlier in this book, the CIA expressed exactly the motives for why they wanted to invade Vietnam and other countries. And the reason was to stop the spread of communism or socialism. They were afraid that if the people of the United States could see another country operating under a different financial organization of the economy outside of capitalism, and how agrarian that was, like how much that helped out average citizens, how much it uplifted people out of poverty and into the middle class, that perhaps we would turn against the United States and demand a system more like that one and not like capitalism. So because capitalism only benefits a small handful of the people in this country, they were like, oh God, no, fuck that. Why would we agree to a system where everybody can flourish and live their best lives when we could maintain this system in which only some of us get to flourish and live our best lives, and the rest, the vast majority of us, have to struggle and look for little pockets of happiness. Like, maybe I can, most of the time it's like, man, I ain't got money for that. I ain't got time for that. I can't go there. I ain't got gas. That shit costs too much. Like, we all worried about all this shit, you know what I'm saying? Or whatever else. So, anywho, where was we? So yeah, so basically, yeah. So anytime any kind of government outside of a capitalist or organization of the economy started to flourish, the United States absolutely would not allow it and would go in and crush it. Do you think those countries did the same thing to us? If they're like, oh, they're over there doing capitalism, let's go over there and stop that shit. It's like, no. It's like, all right, if y'all want to do capitalism in America, go ahead. But we're cool over here. We actually give a fuck about the people in our country. So we're going to do socialism. Y'all can go over there and keep doing capitalism and, the wage slavery and making y'all's constituents buy every fucking thing because you Apparently, to the United States, we citizens are just customers. Like, we're not fucking citizens of the country. We're just renting land here, I guess. You know what I'm saying? And got to pay for everything: healthcare, food, housing, like anything, medicine, like whatever it is. If you need it as a human being, you got to pay for it in America. Whereas in other developed, flourishing countries, with look at China, for instance. Well, I don't want to equal China, but I'm just like, other countries have this shit. Other countries have a flourishing economy. People are balling out of control. Homelessness is down. Child starvation and homelessness and child poverty is low as fuck. Education is high as shit. Not like over here in America, dog. Not like over here in America. We fell in everywhere, dog. You should just Google, be like, hey Google, what? I don't be getting that shit. But anyway, just ask your Google search to what is the U.S.'s, where does the United States rank as far as birth rate or mortality or happiness or literacy? Like, just any of them. We are not number one in any of that shit. We failing like a motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? We the richest country, but we the dumbest motherfucking people. You know what I'm saying? It was dumbest, fattest, laziest, racist, most bigoted country of all countries. Like, bro, and I don't mean us as a populace. I mean us representing the United States government. Like, that's what I'm talking about. And the rest of us are just too fucking, I don't know, dog. We just too pacified to give a fuck. Or we just write shit off, or we just listen to what somebody on some TV or internet show or channel or whatever said, and we just take that as proof, as fact. We don't do our own research or none of that shit. Motherfucker, I research shit that people on my side say. Like, I don't trust shit. You understand what I'm talking about? We already know Republicans are liars. We already know that corporate Democrats are liars. We already know the mainstream media is liars. So why would you take anything any of them people say as fact without first researching it to make sure that it is as they say it is? So that's all I'm saying. It's like, you got to do your own homework. And you have to be able to comprehend what you're reading. It's one thing to just read these words. It's another thing to actually understand what is the message being conveyed here. That's what actually happened. Abuse of reality. Reality is that programs were sincere. After you and the sounds of these matters pose a painful dilemma for policymakers. Lamented at the extreme dovish end of the spectrum by Robert Pastor, Latin American specialist of the Carter administration, which was derided by Reaganites and many others for its excessive devotion to human rights. Defending U.S. policy, Pastor explains that the United States did not want to control Nicaragua or other nations in the region, but it also did not want to allow developments to get out of control. I'm like, see what I'm saying? Like, they didn't want y'all to just be like, oh, shit, communism over there. Shit, socialism just going on over there, dog. And it was like, we can't just have that. We got to go over there and stop that shit. Like, for what? Isn't that considered meddling in other people's elections? But we were so quick to call out Russia. I'm not saying don't call out Russia, but I'm just like, it's real rich coming from us, considering there's almost not a developed nation in the world whose elections we haven't been involved in. But we got a lot of nerve to call somebody else out when they do it to us. That's just that American shit all over again. It's like, when we do it, it's all right. If you do the exact same thing, you are a terrorist. But if we do it, oh, blessed be us, I guess. If we invade countries and murder off motherfuckers, well, we were just spreading democracy. If you do it, you're a brutal dictator, evil fucking war criminal. But if we do it, we had good intentions. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of good things that can be done by murdering off by the thousands innocent children and women, non-combatants in their own countries. Yeah, I'm sure that's some sort of democracy spreading in that. Fuck out of here. That is not what we do. We do not spread democracy. We don't give a fuck about it. We don't even like democracy here. Fuck you saying? If we were so woo about democracy, why are most of our workplaces not democratized? Why are most of our workplaces ran authoritarian-like? They tell you what time to show up, what time you can go to lunch, when you can take a piss, what time to leave, what you have to wear, what you can and can't say at work, what you can and can't wear, what you can and can't bring. You know, all this authoritarian shit. Most of us work at a place like this. We don't get to just come when we want, leave when we want, piss when we want, eat what we want, when we want. Can't just leave work and then go smoke a blunt. I mean, you probably do, but I mean, if they wanted to random drug test your ass tomorrow, they could, and you can choose not to take it, but that would more than likely get you fired, you know. But I'm just saying, it's not a democracy at work. It's not a democracy. No, it ain't a democracy at home, motherfucker. I hope not. I mean, shit, if it's democracy at your house, there's a problem. Like, man, them motherfuckers don't get no fucking say. It's a dictatorship wherever I'm at, and there's children involved. You got me fucked up. Ain't no democracy. Wasn't no democracy when I was growing up either, goddammit. My mom was the goddamn dictator, the president, the ambassador. She was goddamn everybody. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. We don't live under democracy. Like the fucking gerrymandering that's going on. I mean, basically the rich, the corporate CEOs and capitalists of this country, anytime there's a presidential election, they're like, look, they look at who's out there running, which one of those are going to advance their interests. And if that's the person that they like, once they find a guy or a gal or whomever that they like, that they feel like will advance the corporate interests, then that's what they're going to put all their money behind. And an unlimited number of money, too. Because bribery is legal here. So they'll bribe all the politicians, and whichever one's going to do their bidding, who openly admits that they're going to do their bidding, they're going to give them all the money. I'm not saying openly admits like on the campaign trail or like in an interview, but it'll probably be some like backdoor shit, meeting with fucking donors in Martha's Vineyard or some shit. Where, like, for instance, when Joe Biden did the same thing, when he was like, look, fundamentally, nothing will change. Okay, so, I mean, and that's what he told his donors. So once that was established, we already knew he wasn't getting shit. We already knew he wasn't going to raise minimum wage. We knew he wasn't going to get free weed or legal weed or 2 years of fucking college paid for or health or negotiated drug prices. Or we wasn't going to get shit, bro. Like, because he said, fundamentally, nothing will change to the people who lined his pockets. Same is true for Trump. Same was true for Obama. Same was true for fucking Clinton, Bush, Reagan, Carter, like, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Same is true. Like, whoever pays them the most money, that's who they're going to work for. You don't pay them millions, you know, so you ain't getting represented with your broke ass. You know what I'm saying? Capitalism only respects other capitalists. They don't give a fuck about you proletariat going to work every day, broke motherfuckers. Motherfucker, where your jet at? What island you own? You know what I'm saying? How many locations does your business have, motherfucker? All right, well then shut the fuck up. This government don't work for you. It only works for motherfuckers like I just described. Do you have a yacht? Do you have a private island? Do you have a building with your name on it? If not, this country don't work for you. You know. In fact, you the problem, if anything. That's how this country look at your motherfucker. You a fucking problem. You with your fucking wages aren't high enough. Oh, they won't give me insurance. I want to do something about the planet. I want equal rights. Shut the fuck up. You don't give a fuck about none of that. How does any of that get me short-term profits? It doesn't? Well, then you can fuck off. Like, that's exactly how this country works. That is exactly how this country works. Doesn't give a shit. It'll pay lip service to a lot of shit. Equal rights, women's rights, human rights, LGBTQ. Oh, the prison. They won't even say the prison industrial complex. When is the last time you heard anybody in mainstream media say the words prison industrial complex? When's the last time you heard any mainstream media pundit say the word military industrial complex? When have you ever heard that? You know, you have to hear it from dissidents, you know, motherfuckers on other channels. But mainstream media, Carruthers and Pastor are discussing Latin America, but the pattern is worldwide. Let's turn to W. Bush and the Bush Doctrine. The Bush Doctrine is defined simply in the most extensive scholarly study of the roots of the Bush Doctrine by Jonathan Morton in the prestigious journal International Security. Quote, the promotion of democracy is central to the George W. Bush administration's prosecution of both the war on terrorism and its overall grand strategy. The article appeared in 2005 when Iraq was descending into total chaos after the U.S. invasion. The sentiment was unsurprising. By then, it had reached the level of ritual. Why just then? Perhaps because just then, the official rationale for the war had shifted from what had been the single question, Saddam's nuclear weapons programs, to democracy promotion, matters already discussed. Let's turn to another interesting example, Winston Churchill. In our last session, Marv discussed some of Churchill's noble phrases about our common magnificent history and intentions in his famous 1946 Iron Curtain speech. But Churchill was no fool. He had some other things to say about these matters at the same time in the history of World War II. He said, the government of the world must be entrusted to satisfied nations who wished nothing more from themselves than what they had. If the world government were in the hands of hungry nations, there would always be danger. But none of us had any reasons to seek for anything more. The peace would be kept by peoples who lived in their own way and were not ambitious. Our power placed us above the rest. We were like rich men dwelling at peace within their habitations. We were like rich men dwelling at peace within their habitations. So just saying, we're like fat cats just sitting at home chilling, bro. We don't want nothing. Rather ample habitations. So that's 1945 in the history of World War II. But in fact, that's an old position of Churchill's. Shortly before World War I, he gave a speech in Parliament in which he explained that, quote, we are not a young people with an innocent record and a scanty inheritance. We have engrossed to ourselves an altogether disproportionate share of the wealth and traffic of the world. We've got all we want in territory, and our claim to be left in the unmolested enjoyment of vast and splendid possessions, mainly acquired by violence, largely maintained by force, often seems less reasonable to others than to us. What more needs to be said right there? Like, he just straight up said, we, the people, we are not a young people, talking about our country. He said we're not a young people with an innocent record and a scanty inheritance. He says we've engrossed to ourselves an altogether disproportionate share of the wealth and traffic of the world. He's admitting that. And he said the only way we got it was through violence, and we maintained what we have by force. That doesn't sound like democracy. That does not sound like spreading democracy. That sounds like spreading terrorism, doesn't it? If another motherfucking country came to our country talking about, hey, we just had to steal your shit, you know what I'm saying, because democracy or whatever, man, we wouldn't believe that shit, bruh. We would not believe that shit. We'd be mad as fuck. And we'd be ready to do something about it. Anyway, Churchill didn't allow this to be published at the time. It was published with the italicized phrases omitted. The original was discovered recently. Churchill is unusual only in his honesty, recognizing the facts and willingness to express them. With this background, let's take a look at how the world has been organized from World War II. As soon as the war began, the State Department and the Council on Foreign Relations established a war-peace study group that was to determine what the shape of the post-war world would be. The Council for Foreign Relations, the Council for Foreign Relations is the leading non-governmental institution concerned with foreign relations, mostly people in and out of government and corporations. The analysts took for granted the United States would emerge victorious. That was not really in question. For several years, they assumed that the war would end with two major power blocs, one dominated by the United States, the other dominated by Germany. In the early stages of the war, Germany was achieving remarkable success. The area to be dominated by the United States, they called the Grand Area. The Grand Area was to include a minimum the entire Western Hemisphere, the Far East, and the former British Empire, which the U.S. was taking over, displacing Britain, which had been the leading global power for a long time before. So that's the minimum of U.S. domination. The rest would be the German-dominated world. So by about 1942, 1943, after the battle in Stalingrad, and in particular a huge tank battle at Kursk, it was clear that the Russians were going to defeat the Germans. The conception changed. Grand area expectations were modified in character and scale. Now it would be the Russians, not the Germans, who would be the adversary. The grand area would include everything I just described, plus whatever part of Europe and Asia the United States could take over. At the very least, Western Europe, which is in the industrial heartland of the European continent, so that's the expanded grand area. It was understood that in the grand area, the United States would reign supreme. Long before the war, the United States had been by far the richest country in the world, and it gained enormously from the war. Manufacturing practically quadrupled, while other industrial states were severely harmed or almost destroyed. The prominent statesman George Kennan, head of the early post-war State Department policy planning staff, estimated that the U.S. had half of the world's wealth. Very likely an exaggeration. The statistics weren't very good at the time, but probably not by much. So it probably was an exaggeration, but not a huge exaggeration. Grand area planners determined that U.S. domination must be firmly established. In their own words, they planned for a world in which the U.S. would hold unquestioned power, ensuring the limitation of any exercise of sovereignty by states that might interfere with its global designs. So what they're saying is, we don't give a fuck what your country got going on in the world. If you interfering with our self-proclaimed mission to be a world dominant superpower, if it in any way interferes with that, we're coming to destroy you. And it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if all you was trying to do was create a more egalitarian society in which more people, more regular working, average poor people could come up, could have some sort of semblance of a normal, respected life, a life of dignity. If that's all you were trying to do, was just establish that kind of society in your own country, we are not going to stand for that. That is a threat to us. We're coming to invade. That's just what we do. Because we don't give a fuck about your sovereignty or freedom or y'all's rights to exist and do what you want in your country. We don't, no. You do what we want in your country, and that's about it. Now, where was we? When the war ended, these grand area plans determined the U.S. from standing there on one plan for a war in which the plan is therefore sought to develop an integrated policy to achieve military and economic supremacy for the United States in the grand area, which was to expand as much as possible. When the war ended, these conceptions were formulated in internal planning documents. The plans were then implemented where possible. The general idea was to impose what is commonly called the U.S.-led liberal economic order, now under threat by Trump. There were a number of guiding principles. The basic principle was that the new economic order should be an open system, which means freedom for investors, for movement of capital, for extraction of resources. Not, of course, for movement of people. And it must be a level playing field. Everyone is equal. So the United States would be part of the system. Grenada would be part of it, all perfectly fair and equal. There was nothing novel in this stance. In fact, the U.S. was repaying what Britain had done a century earlier. Replaying what Britain had done a century earlier. Britain became a leading industrial power, just as Churchill said, by force and violence, and also by stealing higher technology from other countries. India, Ireland, the countries that are now Belgium and Holland. By the mid-19th century, Britain had become far and away the most advanced society with more than twice the per capita capitalization of any other country. It was far enough ahead in the competition to begin to toy with the idea of advocating free trade, assuming it would do quite well in the competition. That was 1846. Free trade, however, had some qualifications. Britain never really agreed to it fully. India, that's all of South Asia then, was under British control. Before the European onslaught, India and China were the richest, most advanced countries in the world, but imperialism took care of that. India was deindustrialized by the British occupation, but it was still a rich prize, closed off despite free trade pretensions and barred from real development. Later, Britain abandoned the free trade game altogether because it could no longer compete with Japan. It therefore closed off the empire. Holland, which had a substantial empire in East Asia, did the same thing, and the US did the same as well. That's a large part of the background for the Second World War in the Pacific. The Japanese reacted to the closing of the entire region by the imperial powers, blocking their access to essential resources. they began to carry out aggressive acts, which finally led to war. The US recapitulated the British experience a century later. Until well into the 20th century, the US was a leader in protectionism. Economic historian Paul Barak described the US as the mother country and bastion of protectionism. From its origins, the US also resorted to other forms of large-scale state intervention in the economy, some truly extreme, like slavery, which was the basis of much of the modern economy. But by 1945, the United States was far ahead of anyone else, so it was a good time for free trade, an open global system. But just like Britain before it, there were some qualifications. One of the US principles for the post-war liberal world order was that regional alliances were to be dismantled. There should be no more imperial preference systems in which the imperial power had special control and could keep others from entering it on equal terms, with one exception. One regional system was to remain. Henry Stimson, one of the leading US statesmen, when discussing the elimination of regional systems, explained that all must be eliminated except for our little region over here, which has never bothered anyone, the Western Hemisphere. So, the Western Hemisphere, rather like India under the British, would be under US control, but the rest would be open to everyone. The meaning of open global systems is sometimes articulated quite honestly in internal documents. The most important commodity in the world at the time, and still today, was oil. The United States, of course, had a petroleum policy. It was spelled out in a 1944 State Department doctrine entitled The Petroleum Policy of the United States. The document called for the preservation of the absolute position obtaining in the Western Hemisphere, and therefore vigilant protection of existing concessions in United States hands, coupled with insistence upon the open door principle of equal opportunity for United States companies in new areas. In brief, what we have, we keep closing the doors to others. What we do not yet have, we take under the principle of the open door. In our little region over here, it wasn't too difficult to implement this principle. Long before World War II, the US had expelled Britain from Venezuela when major oil reserves were found there, imposing its own rule. The Middle East, where the main resources of easily accessible oil were and still are, was more complex. Prior to World War II, the region was largely under British control. To implement the petroleum policy, the US, relying on its far superior power, compelled Britain to accept an arrangement that reserved a privileged position for the US domestic oil industry while exposing all of Britain's oil production, which was in other countries, to the competition of the powerful US international oil companies. French interests were dismissed even more easily by declaring France to be an enemy state under German occupation, hence forfeiting its rights. The vast energy reserves of the Middle East, included in the Grand Area, were not important for the US itself, which then, and for many years after, was the world's major petroleum producer, as it is becoming again today. But they were important as a means of world control. The industrial centers of the Grand Area were shifting to reliance on oil under US influence. Much Marshall Plan aid for Europe was dedicated to the purchase of oil, hence moving from one US bank to another. Furthermore, U.S. control over this increasingly essential resource provided the U.S. with veto power over its allies, George Kennan explained. Kennan was referring specifically to Japan. At the time, Japan's development to a major industrial power was considered a remote contingency, but still a potential concern, especially if Japan were to seek an independent role in world affairs. In that case, the veto power would become an important tool of diplomacy. These conceptions persisted into the post-Cold War years. The influential planner, Zbigniew Brzezinski, was not enthusiastic about the U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003, but he recognized that it might have a bright side. He wrote that America's security role, the conventional euphemism for military domination, if extended over the second largest oil producer in the region, would provide Washington with indirect but politically critical leverage on the European and Asian economies that are also dependent on energy exports from the region. Global control requires thoughtful planning. The Middle East remains of enormous importance. Just open the newspapers. You read about Iraq, Iran, Syria, Saudi Arabia, and its war in Yemen, which is destroying the country with U.S. arms and intelligence support. Qatar, Israel, it's a major focus. And the reason it's obscure. It was explained by the State Department in 1945 when the New World Order was being established. The State Department pointed out that Middle East oil is a stupendous source of strategic power and one of the greatest material prizes in world history. That's not a small affair. We have to make sure we have substantial control of that. In Europe, the war ended in 1945 with the Russians and allied US-UK forces separated at the Oder-Neisse line, whatever that is, which was actually a historical fault line. Oh, okay. That was where Eastern and Western Europe had begun to divide in about the 15th century. Western Europe at that point was beginning to develop. Eastern Europe was falling behind. Historian of Russia, Theodore Shannon, writes that in the course of this process, Russia was becoming a semi-colonial possession of European capital. There was some development in Eastern Europe, but it was mostly Western owned. That changed in 1917. After the Bolshevik Revolution, Russia went on to become a major industrial power, although nowhere near the scale of the West. After 1945, each side imposed its rule in the areas they had conquered. For the Russians, it was Eastern Europe. That story is familiar, not in Russia where it was clouded in propaganda, but here we all know about Russian oppression in Eastern Europe, so we don't have to review it. For U.S. domains, most of the rest of the world, you have to search the documentary and scholarly record to find out what happened. I'll talk a little bit about it later. In Europe and also in Japan, the first task was to dismantle the anti-fascist resistance and the social and political structures that it had established. The problem was faced in the first country occupied by Allied forces, Italy. There, the resistance had driven the Germans out of large areas and had begun to construct a new radical democratic order on their own. It was therefore necessary to dismantle what had been constructed and to restore the traditional order, including leading fascists and fascist collaborators. Italy remained a tough nut. The CIA carried out one of its major operations there from 1948, aimed at subverting Italian democracy, continuing at least into the 70s. There were similar tasks all over Western Europe and Japan, and interventions all over the Grand Area, too numerous to mention. If there's time, we'll return to some of them. I'm going to pause right there. Oh, shit. What the fuck did I just do? Oh, shit. Pause right there. If we took, yeah, return to some of them. Okay, so we stopped there. So we're on page 134. If you want to go get the book and start where we left off. But yeah, see what I'm saying though? Like this book is about U.S. history, foreign policy, U.S. foreign policy history, you know what I'm saying? And how it has impacted the world order today. You know what I'm saying? And this is just one book. Like, I've already read Manufacturing Consent by Noam Chomsky. So if you haven't read that one, I suggest you read that. Like that. Now, this is just as informative, but I just feel like Manufacturing Consent is like an eye-opener as far as like how this country operates, meaning like what information they will allow to get disseminated to the rest of us, the excuses they use for whatever intervention we're involved in abroad, you know, and basically how the mass media just sort of accepts all of it. Like they just don't challenge it at all. Like they don't offer any pushback. They just, if you say it, they will regurgitate it. And that is really the end of the fucking journalism as far as that's concerned. Like, so that's why it's really incumbent upon you and me to go do our own fucking work, bruh. Like, we gotta go get our own fucking material, teach our fucking selves. You gonna come across words you don't know, Google it, whatever, look it up, write the definition, a quick little definition of what the word means somewhere on that page, you know, just so that when you come across it again, you'll know what it means, you know. Because I mean, there's been a couple words, bruh, like in this book that I'm just like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, I can probably get an idea of what the word means just from its usage, but like as far as just on the strength of having heard that word, nah, dog, it ain't there. Like I don't be knowing some of these words, and I have a pretty vast vocabulary if I do say so myself, but that don't mean I know all the words. Shit. Like some words you just know what they mean, even if you can't define it, but you can just use it correctly. You know what I'm saying? Man, there's some shit in here. This right here. 'Cause I be like making notes and shit. And this shit, hold on, is it that page or this page? No, this page. See this whole shit that I bracketed in? Man, that shit right there, bruh. Let me read to you what it says. I'm gonna just read that paragraph. Bruh, I had to underline it. It's so, I was like, man, what? Anyway, it said this: the engine of American foreign policy has been fueled not by a devotion to any kind of morality, but by rather the necessity to serve other imperatives, which can be summarized as follows: making the world safe for American corporations, enhancing the financial systems of defense contractors at home who have contributed generously to members of Congress, preventing the rise of any society that might serve as a successful example of an alternative to the capitalist model, extending political and economic hegemony over as wide an area as possible as benefits or befits a great power. This in the name of fighting a supposed moral crusade against what cold warriors convinced themselves and the American people was the existence of an evil international communist conspiracy, which in fact never existed, evil or not. That to me just sums up the entire, this just tells you everything you need to know about current foreign policy and historical foreign policy. That U.S., it says American foreign policy has been fueled not by any kind of morality. So meaning that if we ever involved anywhere else in the world, it's not for no moral reasons. It's not to spread democracy or freedom or whatever the fuck. Like those are moral reasons, and that's never been at the heart of U.S. foreign policy. Instead, it's these things: making the world safe for American corporations. That was number one. Which is interesting because that is exactly who runs this country. American corporations, CEOs, the fucking military industrial complex, big oil, big pharma. Like them up with these CEOs and corporate shareholders. These are the motherfuckers who run the country. And that's why so many of the policies that get passed, almost with bipartisan support, are the ones that benefit corporations and businesses mostly, if exclusively even. So that was number one: making the world safer for American corporations. And by safer, they mean less regulations. They don't have to pay you a living wage. They don't have to offer workplace protections. They don't have to, just whatever they don't want to give to you, they don't have to. Because fuck you, pay me, basically. So that's number one. Number two, enhancing the financial statements of defense contractors at home who have contributed generously to members of Congress. Again, what did he just say? Like, this was all in 2018 when he wrote this. Or no, he died in 2018, but this came out, we'll just say that same year. Enhancing the financial statements of defense contractors. So that just means that we're going to devote a lot of money to the military industrial complex to give them more contracts. Why would they need contracts? Why would the military industrial complex need a contract, weapons contracts with the government? I mean, just ask yourself that. Like, why would you need that? Like, because if you have a contract, everyone gets a little bit of something, you know what I'm saying? Which is basically how it's supposed to work. I'm going to give you something and I'm going to get something, and we're going to sign this paper both acknowledging this basic set of facts, And so if you are making a deal with someone whose only point of existence is to generate profits for their weapons, then what do you get out of it? We know what they get out of it. They're going to get more weapon sales. You know what I'm saying? That's more money for them, more profit. But what does the U.S. get out of having what do we get out of it? And by we, I guess I should be referring to the governmental we, because we already know what you and I get out of it. We get fucking shot at fucking country music theaters and fucking gay fucking clubs and goddamn school and churches and synagogues and down the street and at home or walking on knocking on the wrong neighbor's door or whatever. Like, that's what the fuck we get. We get shot because there's just a proliferation of weapons all throughout this goddamn country. So that's what we get. We get fucking massacred. We have more guns than people. That's what we get. You know. But not referring to us we. If we're just talking about the Washington we, well, then what the Washington we gets is money, as he just said, that lines their campaign coffers. So weapons manufacturers are going to give you some money here, fucking Ted Cruz. Now, anytime somebody talks about gun legislation, you shut that shit down, all right? Now, here's a couple more thousand. You shut that shit down now. Doesn't matter what Ted Cruz thinks in this scenario. Doesn't matter if Ted Cruz is pro-gun, anti-gun. Doesn't fucking matter. He just got a couple $1,000s from the motherfucker who said, you like guns, okay? You don't want to do nothing about guns, period. Now, here's this check. And you press, you push that agenda to the best of your abilities. That's how it works. And it's not just the gun lobby, like, of course. Like, same thing could be true. Hey, Nancy Pelosi, I'm a representative from big banks. We don't want you to do anything to rein in, you know, whatever big banks fucking do. I don't fucking know. But this, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's how it works. These motherfuckers pay these motherfuckers in Congress to get their way, to make the world safer for corporations. Now, the third thing was preventing the rise of any society that might serve as a successful example of an alternative to the capitalist model. That would mean anytime we see communism or socialism sprouting up anywhere in the world, we gotta go kill it. We gotta go crush it. Because God forbid, it's in the fucking document, God forbid Americans get a whiff of any other kind of financial system that may actually be better for you. We can't have that. Crush it. Crush it. Demonize socialism. Demonize communism. We got to. You have to demonize socialism and communism so that we in Congress can keep getting our pockets filled by those in the military-industrial complex. So anything that comes in the way of stopping that, we have to demonize it. We got to kill it. We'll keep going. Extending political and economic hegemony over as wide an area as possible as benefits or befits a great power. So basically, wherever in the world we want to do what we want to do, if it benefits us, or if we just feel like it, like somehow this will, you know, benefit us, or we just, you know, that's Tuesday, why not? Then we can do it. And that's straight up, bruh. Like, it's right there. Extending political and economic hegemony over as wide an area as possible as it befits a great power. So never mind the smaller power. We don't give a fuck what's in your best interest, but what's in our best interest. That's all we give a shit about. This in the name of fighting a supposed moral crusade. Again, start off with there's no morality of any kind in the United States. Not in the government. Not at all. And especially and specifically when it comes to foreign policy. We have no moral leg to stand on at all. But we'll continue to use the rhetoric of a moral crusade. We're spreading democracy and freedom over in that country. And that's why we're over there murdering those people indiscriminately. That's what they say. In the name of fighting a supposed moral crusade against what cold warriors convinced themselves and the American people was the existence of an evil international communist conspiracy. So they'll always use the threat of communism and socialism as sort of a cudgel against the American people to get them to continue to support this capitalist hegemonic structure under which we are. And the best way to do that, like I said, is you gotta just indoctrinate these people. Tell them from the moment they're fucking going to school, elementary, communism bad, socialism bad, capitalism good, all other countries bad. When we do it, good. We are the only angels in the world. Anytime we involved in anything, it's for the good of the world. The most insulting thing about all of that is that it's as if they don't expect you to do any reading. They don't expect you to learn. You know what I mean? Because it's not like this shit isn't out there. They just don't want you to know about it. They want whatever Tucker Carlson says to be all you know about the subject and therefore accept it as fact. You know, they want whatever Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Fox and Friends, whatever those motherfuckers tell you, that's what they want you to believe. They don't want you to have any intellectual curiosity and go find out this information for yourself. They want you to just accept what they say as gospel and then act or don't act upon that information. Period. They just lost a lawsuit and where they have to now pay damn near $1 billion for lying about Dominion's voting system. For lying about Dominion's voting machines, saying that they were rigged or they were switching votes from Trump to Obama. All this bullshit. Clearly it was a lie. Clearly it was defamatory because they lost their fucking case. Now they were able to settle out of court, you know. And the only reason they did that, obviously, was so they didn't have to take anyone to the court. Like, no one had to go to the stand. They didn't have to bring Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham or none of these motherfuckers to the witness stand to testify where they had to tell you the truth. But you know what's sad? Republicans and MAGA wouldn't have believed it. Even if they'd have came on, had to testify, yep, we lied, MAGA still would have been like, that's fake news. You know, like because they just don't want to believe facts if they're facts, if the facts contradict how they feel. Because for the right, it's all about feelings over facts. Period. Like the right wing is just, they don't care about facts. Facts don't matter to them at all. All that matters is how do they feel about any given subject. Period. That's just how it is. You know what I mean? That's just how they feel about any given subject. Which is ironic considering that statement, facts don't care about your feelings, is attributed to Ben Shapiro. Well, motherfucker, that's rich coming from you when a lot of the shit you bitch about, it's just you crying. Like, what the fuck? Like, you motherfuckers bitched about M&Ms. You bitched about Mr. Potato Head. You bitched about someone maybe coming to take your refrigerator or stove or whatever the fuck. None of that happened. Nobody on the left cared about any of that shit. But the right-wing television told you that this is what the left is over. They're obsessing about now. They're going woke. They're changing the boots on the Eminem characters. It's like, are you fucking shitting me right now? Is that what you really think leftists are thinking about right now? I don't give a fuck about no fucking M&Ms. Because we understand what all that is. They're just trying to pander to the social justice warriors out there who are not helping the cause anyway, so you shit on them. But it's just a way it's just marketing, bro. They just feel like, oh, maybe if we seem more inclusive, we can get more liberal dollars. It's like, and we on the left are like, who gives a shit? Like, the M&Ms, what? You know what I mean? Like, we don't fucking care. We never had an outrage about it. It's just not a thing. But the right will tell you it is because they're mad about it. They're the ones upset about it. Sean Hannity's mad about it. Tucker Carlson's mad about it. Ben Shapiro's mad about it. Nobody on the left gives a fuck. No one cares. Like, what the fuck? It's only news. Like, we only knew about it because y'all talked about it. Like, you didn't hear nobody in the streets. I'm talking about you watching me right now. You ain't heard nobody in the streets talking about did you see what they did with the M&Ms? Damn liberals. You know, like nobody was paying attention to the M&Ms. Like, first of all, who the fuck buying M&Ms? Let's just keep it real. And you ain't buying peanut butter M&Ms? The best M&Ms, period. I don't care what you say. Peanut butter M&Ms is the best. Fight me. I don't care. Peanut M&Ms is the worst. Peanut butter is the best. Period. Hands down. But beside the point. Who the fuck buying regular M&Ms and it's not like part of a party bag or whatever for Halloween? Get the fuck out of here. What psychopath is just buying regular M&Ms? But even if you are, who's looking at the fucking pack? You just want to know if it's the right flavor. Like, oh, is this peanut or not peanut? Like, you don't give a shit. Like, oh, what are they wearing on here? I feel a certain type of way about the clothing on this drawn character on a fucking candy bag. That's the right wing, dog. They're the ones outraged by it. No one on the left gave a fuck. Nobody. The corporate motherfuckers decided, how can we get more money out of this dead horse? Present it differently. All right, sure. And that's what they did. And then who lost their minds about it? Did you see anybody on the left cheering M&M's? Like, oh, good for M&M's. Good for Mr. Potato Head. Good for all that shit. We didn't give a fuck. We was like, man, what the fuck? All you heard anyone on the left say was, oh, okay, I guess they did that. That's cool. Whatever. You know, didn't really care. Like, in fact, most of us on the left only heard about this shit because somebody on the right was bitching about it. We're like, I didn't even know about the M&M thing. I just happened to come across this shit on my YouTube feed about some Tucker Carlson was bitching about M&Ms. I'm like, what happened with M&Ms? Like, so now I gotta like see what he's mad about, but he's saying it's the left. I'm like, bro, ain't nobody on the left talking about this. Everybody on the left is talking about you talking about it. Like, but that's what the right does, bro. Like, they just make up shit to be mad about, then say it's the left that's pushing this agenda when really we're not even involved in the agenda. You're the one pushing it. You're the ones who made it a thing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we wasn't worried about no fucking Mr. Potato Head. I don't give a shit. Because that doesn't mean anything. Like, it's a toy. I don't care. Like, whatever. It's a toy. That's not going to put more food on the table. That's not going to make healthcare any less expensive. That's not going to raise wages. Like, I don't give a fuck what you do with your toys. Like, that's a corporate decision. They're just trying to get profits, bro. It's just a marketing thing. Why you can't see that is beyond me. But if you're watching right-wing media, then it's probably because they told you that the left is the one pushing this narrative. And it's like, bro, y'all the ones pushing it. We don't give a fuck. We too busy trying to get rights and, you know what I'm saying? We trying to get too busy fighting for marginalized communities. Somebody on one of my videos was like, can you explain that without using buzzwords like marginalized? I'm like, when did marginalized become a buzzword? Like, it's how you describe a certain segment of a population. What the fuck do you mean? Like, this is what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? Because half these people I be debating, if you will, ain't even smart. Like, they don't even have a vocabulary. They don't even, the words they use don't first of all, don't even be applied correctly. Or it's just completely like, what are you saying? That's not a word. Like, you know what I'm saying? You motherfuckers are dumb. Like, a motherfucker who don't read can't talk to me about nothing. Like, I don't want to hear it. Like, you don't know anything. You're just regurgitating to me some shit you saw on something, you know. Or if a tweet or some shit. Like, get the fuck out of here. That's not knowledge, motherfucker. Go do your own research. Pick up a newspaper, motherfucker. What are they reporting on in your city? What's going on in your state? You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so that's my whole point, basically. Like, shit, I just wanted to pause there because it's so much to learn in here. But I'd be making notes so I can come back later or have reference points. Like, if I'm trying to make an argument with somebody and I just need, like, well, I have some shit I can go back to. I'm about to start buying, like, little, you know what I'm saying? Those little notes that kind of like stick up, so you know, like, you know what I'm saying? So, like, you know what this page, like, why did you block this page off? Or it's like, well, they was talking about this on this page, so that's why I got that tab, you know what I'm saying? So that's what I was thinking about doing, like, getting some of those tabs so I could be like, oh, this is where they're talking about this specific thing, or this is where they're talking about that specific thing. So I'm about to start doing that because I feel like that's a better way for me to, like, retain the information I'm learning, and also it's a good way of, I guess, like, organizing the information so I can have an easy reference point. What's up with you, man? Hold on, I ain't even looking at none of these comments. How many countries are exposed or shown in the media? Right, the world in the treaty. Ted Cruz is an embarrassment. Yes, he is. Only the 20 we own and control throughout. Hold up. Damn. What just happened? Okay, there we go. Go China, go. You stupid. How about BRICS? I don't know what that is. What's good, G? What up? What's up? It's chocolate. It's a bell in this biz. Hold on, damn, why the words keep going away? Live? Is it live chat? Yeah, there we go. Disney. Yeah, they mad at Disney. Yeah, they mad at Disney because he tried to pull some fuck shit. Like if this was like any other circumstance, I probably would have been on like the governor's side or whatever because fuck Disney. But Ron DeSantis is so astronomically deplorable and just a shit human being that now I find myself ironically on the side of Disney. Right? Because Disney a bully too. You know what I'm saying? Like they on some fuck shit too. It's just in this particular circumstance, I just really don't like the guy that they are battling. So, but again, any other circumstance, I'd be like, fuck Disney. You know what I'm saying? They part of the problem in this goddamn country. They own goddamn everything. You know what I'm saying? We about to be a country of Amazon and Disney, motherfucker. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, shit. You ain't able to do shit. Everything will be owned by Amazon and Disney. Like, two ass companies own 100% of all of the country's GDP and shit. Two motherfucking companies. Like, it's gonna be crazy, dog. Amazon gonna buy out Shell and Mobil. You know what I'm saying? They gonna be buying out fucking gas companies and shit, grocery stores. Amazon already got their own grocery store. They probably got their own gas station. I just don't know about it. But you know what I'm saying? They about to make everything, goddamn, the United States of Amazon, goddamn. That's what it's gonna be. The United States of Amazon. Goddamn it. We fucked. We fucked, dog. I'm just saying, son. Hold on, what time is it? God damn it, son. I've been doing this shit that long. I've been doing this shit for almost 2 hours, hour and a half, whatever. Because they're inclusive and too woke. Nah. I'm about tired of hearing that term woke. Because that's what the right do. Boy, they'll take any term invented by the left and then just corrupt the fuck out of it. Like, bro, I don't even... They'll just say anything they don't like is woke. It's like, bro, that's not what it is. Like, not everything you don't like is woke. Just like how every news article about Trump wasn't fake news just because it didn't make you look good in it, motherfucker. It's not how it works. In fact, in a recent poll, most Americans have a favorable view of the word woke. It's just you fucking psychos that think there's something wrong with being woke. What is the opposite of that? Sleep, motherfucker? You happy to be asleep? You just closed and don't know what the fuck going on. A motherfucker that's woke got their eyes open. They can see what the fuck's going on. You know what I'm saying? And not just what the powers that be want you to see. You able to see through that shit. You know what I'm saying? But if you sleep, which I guess is the opposite of woke, you just be a fucking sheep for the fucking corporations. You know what I'm saying? It's a dumbass. You don't want to like think for yourself, think critically, think individually. You know what I'm saying? They just want you to accept the hegemonic neoliberal ideology and just run with that. Don't think for yourself. No. Because if you think for yourself, you might actually want something for yourself. Fuck you. According to Adam Smith, if you ever heard of him, he said that the motherfucking masters of mankind, meaning the rich people of the country, should pursue their vile maxim. What is the vile maxim, you ask? The vile maxim is everything for me and nothing for you. And that's practically what goes on today. Like, corporations get all what they want, whatever they want. Deregulations, you know what I'm saying? Tax cuts, all that shit. But for you, they ain't giving you shit. You know what I'm saying? They ain't giving you a goddamn thing. You know what I mean? Even if you're entitled to it, fuck you. It's ours. We taking it. Like, that's how it runs in this country. You know. And I would say you stupid if you think otherwise, but I'll be charitable and say that obviously you are ill-informed if you think otherwise. Because this country does not care about you. Like, if you poor, I'm sorry. Like, it doesn't matter if you black, white, immigrant. If you poor, they've already wrote you off. You know what I'm saying? Because, look, it's... This country just don't care about us. That's all I'm going to say about that. And there's way too much evidence. Way too much evidence for that to not be the truth. Like, there's so much evidence supporting the claim that the United States does not give a single shit about its population. That the United States doesn't give a single fuck about no other country and their democracy. and that the only thing that the United States gives any single shit about is their own hegemonic dominant position in the world. That is it. And the way they do that is by exploitation, subjugation, murder, stealing countries' resources, all kinds of shit. Like, we just don't have a moral leg to stand on. It's never been our thing to be moral. We just use the words morality because we know people like you care. Like, you have a moral leg to stand on. There's certain shit you won't tolerate, certain shit that you just won't let happen for money. You know what I mean? Like, you're not, if someone said, I give you $1 million, all you got to do is kill whoever you love the most in your family. That's all you got to do. And I give you $1 million. Whoever you love the absolute most, your mama, your child, your grandma, whoever, kill that motherfucker, bullet in the face, and then I'll give you $1 million. You wouldn't do it. I would imagine most of you watching this, well, you 7 motherfuckers, I would imagine y'all wouldn't do that. Like, there's just certain things money cannot buy. Because you have a limit. Like, you're like, no, I don't care how much you pay me. I'm not going to do that. I don't even know that I physically could do it. But I'm not doing it. Regardless if I could physically do it, I'm not doing that. There's no amount of money you could pay me to have me murder my own mother. There's no amount of money. There's no amount of money you could give me to be like, look, there's a good chance tomorrow that the elementary school down your street is going to be shot the fuck up, riddled with bullets, bloody children's bodies everywhere. But I'll give you $1 million right now if you just shut the fuck up about it. You know what I'm saying? And don't do anything. You'll probably be like, man, fuck that $1 million. I'm telling. My child go to that elementary school. Fuck you. I have morals. Our government is not that way. The government doesn't give a shit. You would think that we'd have done something about guns after Sandy Hook. Like, I mean, I really don't know why Sandy Hook had to be the fucking, you know what I mean? Because I guess we're just saying that people's lives don't matter. Middle school, high school kids, their lives don't matter. It took Sandy Hook. I guess that was supposed to matter. Elementary kids is our bottom. And then we still didn't do anything. We're like, nope, guns. We need guns. Fuck those kids. They died in vain, whatever. Should have had guns, I guess, It's like, that's how we feel in this country. Like, because we don't care. We'll kill our own mothers. We'll slaughter our own children. We don't give a fuck. There's money to be had. Do you really think that the politicians in Washington are so staunch advocates of the Second Amendment that they're just like, no, under no circumstances will it be trampled upon. Under no circumstances will we do any sort of mitigation or any sort of like, you know what I mean? We're not doing any of that. Like, and if we have, let's talk about rolling that shit back. It's like, because they don't care. They see the evidence. They see what it means. They see like there's a good chance more people will be shot. More people don't give a fuck. They don't care. So kill them. Whatever. I mean, it just is what it is. People are depraved. They're gonna do what they want. So why stop the guns? It's like, that's the argument? Really? Like, I mean, this is what I mean when I say that the right does not care about facts. They just do not care about facts. Like, if they cared, then they would look at statistics from one country to the next, where it's somewhat relatively comparable, where their citizens are allowed to have weapons, you know what I'm saying, like guns. And our country is allowed to have guns. So what is the difference? Like, all right, well, what kind of guns do y'all have? Oh, we have the same guns. All right. I got ARs? All right, we got ARs. Cool. But y'all don't have any mass shootings. And we got like 300 or more already, and it's only April, Facts. Like, it's only April. And look how many mass shootings we've had this year already. I'm not talking about just what was reported on the news. Google mass shootings in 2023 so far. And you'll see that huge ass ridiculous number. And then see like what other countries have mass shootings. All right, what other countries that have guns like ARs, and how many mass shootings have they had? And then what is the difference? Regulation, motherfuckers, in the goddamn amendment. It's in the Second Amendment. It says it right there. A well-regulated militia. What does regulation mean? It means limitations, motherfucker. It means laws. You know what I'm saying? It means certain shit. You can have it if you're the kind of person who should have it or who could be trusted to have it. Like, that's how it was set up. But you can't tell that to the right. They're like, nah, dog. Nah, no rules, no regulations. Just, I want a gun. I should be able to just have any kind and unlimited ammunition and carry it wherever I want to, and shoot whoever I want, whenever I want. Like, that's not what the framers had in mind. Not whatsoever, sir. Not at all. But you don't care. You don't care. You don't care that that's what the framers didn't have in mind. You don't care about none of that. You don't care what the statistics are. None of that matters to you. Why? Because those are facts. And those contradict your feelings. And your feelings mean more to you. So facts be damned. I want a gun. I like guns. So I don't care how many elementary kids get shot. I don't care how many people, old people, young people, religious people, black people, poor people, rich people, young people. It doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter. I don't care how many people get shot. I don't care how many people die. And then their solution is like, well, they should have been armed. All right. We'll give everybody in the country a gun. Every swinging dick and hanging tit a fucking pistol. Or an AR-15. Fuck it. That seems to be the weapon of choice. Just give everybody one. And then, sure, I guess gun deaths will go down. Makes no logical sense. No logical sense at all. But again, the right isn't concerned with logic or sense. Just how do they feel individually in the moment about whatever this issue is. Doesn't matter what the facts say. Doesn't matter what the statistics say. Just doesn't. Data be damned. Doesn't matter. Unless that data is in line with what I think. Because then I'll believe it, maybe. But even if in that data there's something with it that I don't agree with, then that's probably not good data. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how they operate, dog. Like, they don't want to hear nothing that contradicts them. Yeah, how much shit I had to hear over the years that just completely contradicted what I just thought was the facts, what I thought was just true, because I didn't want to do any reading. I didn't want to pick up a fucking book. I just accepted what they said on YouTube. Like, whatever channels I was watching, whatever programs on TV, or whatever someone older than me at work, or whatever. Like, just, you know what I'm saying? Like, God forbid I actually go do my own research. And by that I mean I go and read my own reports, my own, if there's documents that were released, I'll read those documents. What do they say? And then how does that match what they're saying on TV about what these documents say? Or I'll read the actual police reports, or I'll read the actual, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'll read the historical record, not just regurgitating